Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. Today's guest, Shannon Smith, is a career architect. I had never heard of that before, but she really helps people who have outgrown their current job, that kind of stuff. And she has a free course that you can click on the bottom and you can go to. There's a little code that will get you into it free. So just kind of check where you are in your career. We went really deep into the hard parts of getting to where you finally get. It's very real, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. So, Shannon, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Kara. Thanks for inviting me.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking for some real raw stuff here. And
Uh-huh.
you have accomplished an unbelievable amount in your lifetime. And I don't even want to talk about that at the beginning. I just want to know, what did you have to go through to get to where you are?
Oh, absolutely, Kara. That's a long, long story. And for the sake of this show and not taking up too much time, I'll just kind of get into a few setbacks that really were turning points for me from, struggling as a single mom to, successfully moving into a career that I love and making more and of course, being able to serve clients in my coaching practice. But one of the setbacks that really stands out to me above all others is losing my job on moving day. I had been recently divorced. Yeah, I decided that, I had been living in my hometown my entire life and I needed a change. And you know how if you've been married over a decade, everywhere you go in your hometown is a reminder of something good or bad or whatever. And I just wanted a fresh start. So I said, I'm gonna relocate to a new city. I just finished grad school. And most of the opportunities that I was looking for in my field, which was instructional design, were in the DC area. So I said, okay, I'm gonna move closer to that area to land a better job. And I was literally packing the U-Haul, Kara, and the kids were all excited. And I get a phone call right as I'm putting the last few items in the truck. And it was the contractor. You know how you working with a contract agency, you have a point of contact. And so that person called me right as I was putting the last bit of items in the truck to say that they lost the contract and I no longer had a job.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Okay. So you were moving to a new job, you thought?
Yes. And a new city. I had picked out the place. Um, Everything was pretty much a green light, other because they were basing, my approval and everything on the job. And so everything fell apart after that phone call.
Oh my gosh. I'm actually feeling you right now. I am like, how
Yeah.
many kids did you have?
Four. I still have four. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I still do. Yeah, hopefully. Okay. So you have four kids, you're loading up a U-Haul to move to a city you don't know for a job that you knew was going to pay your bills. What did you do?
Well, as a mom, you have to play it off, because you don't want to freak the kids out. So I had to, tap into my interacting skills and I felt like everything was okay. And I was scrambling, like mentally, I was panicking, like, what am I going to do now? And, I didn't have like a support system where I could really, like, oh, I can just, you know, use this person to help me. It was a really, really tough time where I had to like stay with different family members over the course of a few months because, of course, it delayed my moving plans. But thankfully, the same contracting agency, they felt really bad about letting me go, with that job so soon. So they were able to advocate and refer me to another role. So I was able to land another government contract, and then I was able to move to the new city, and my plans got on schedule, but it was just delayed. And that was a valuable lesson for me in that when that setback happened, of course, all my family, they were saying, "Oh, this is a sign that you need to just squash those plans and stay home." But in my heart, I knew that this fresh start was exactly what I needed to rebuild my life. And it was really difficult to hear your family say one thing, and they love you and they mean well, But when you have that inner calling to say, okay, this is what needs to happen in my life and I need to move and I need a fresh start. It was a battle to like, do I listen to my family? Do I listen to this inner voice that's telling me to move forward? Thankfully, I listened to the voice and I went ahead and moved, and it totally changed my life. Like I often say that moving to a new city and starting over allowed me to be introduced to the real me, because living in my hometown and me and my sisters are very close. um I really lived my life through their expectations and just, accommodating everyone and doing what everyone expected me to do. But when you're in a new city where you don't know anyone, uh you really tap into things that you didn't even know. Like, I discovered a resilience that I didn't even realize was there, levels of creativity and, um determination that I would not have discovered if I hadn't moved.
Holy cow. Okay, that's so big. I want to unpack some of it.
Yeah.
Have you heard how they catch crabs?
No, no, actually I haven't.
Earl, this is so exactly, and guys, for all of you that are listening here, please understand that when you well, here's the crab story. They take a cage, they put crab food at the bottom, there's no lid. They lower it to the bottom of the sea. The crabs go in, they eat the food. When there's no more food, one of the crabs will go, see ya, there's no more food, and try to climb out. The other crabs will pull them down. They will break their limbs. They will do anything to keep them from leaving. They're all going to die if they stay there, but one of them goes, no, I got to go. And when your family does that to you, in their hearts, they're doing it for you, your family, your friends, because they're scared to death.
Yeah.
You are growing, you're leaving, and you're leaving me. And it's not safe for you to leave me. So you have to stay here. What gave you the courage to, against all advice from everyone who truly do love you? What gave you the courage to just do it anyway?
Um, I would have to say, the being grounded in spirituality. I come from a very spiritual background. My father was a preacher. And as I got older, I started tapping into a more, non-conventional spiritual path that wasn't really aligned with how I was raised. And that forced me to look within a lot more than to rely on external people to inform me of how to believe and how to see the world and how to see myself. And the more and more I leaned into self-belief and really listening to my inner voice, and that's something I had never done before. I often listened to what everyone wanted from me, and so moving gave me a lot of quiet time to really tap into my inner voice. And when I made the decision, like even before I left my hometown, making the decision to move um really came from getting quiet. And when I was in grad school and then raising the kids, I had a lot of time, away from my siblings because I was working on goals. And so that time away from my siblings and my, immediate family to work on these things kind of isolated me so that I could kind of get more comfortable with my inner voice and what am I looking to do and what do I want. And the more I tapped into that desire, I think the stronger my courage and confidence became. And then I came to that decision point where, yeah, okay, I'm moving. I got to get out of here. I need to do something else. There's something in me that's saying I can do more and I can be more and I can, expand beyond what everyone has always seen me as, the quiet one, the shy one, the bookworm. There was I discovered that there were more levels and more layers to me than what, everyone had become familiar with.
So, Shannon, how important is your environment, the people that you're around?
Oh, it's everything. It's absolutely everything, because I thought about, like, when I was growing up at home. And like I said, your family they mean well, right? Like, even when you were saying before, like, even if they're pulling you down and breaking your legs or what have you, they're doing it because they think they're doing it for you. So it's not out of malice or, or anything negative, I believe. I think that oftentimes your family and your friends, they have just become familiar with a certain version of you. And, our brains are hardwired to resist change. And so if we're starting to change and grow and expand, it seems like, or your brain processes it as a threat. And so your family may say, hey, wait a minute, you're threatening our relationship. You're threatening our familiar comfort. This is our thing. And now you're going to up and just, throw that all away or disrupt it. And so I think that as you grow, you really have to be intentional with surrounding yourself with people who are supportive of where you're trying to go and who you're trying to become. And oftentimes it may require just a tough conversation with your family to say, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Will you go with me? Or, or are we gonna just part as friends and or part as, loving family members and realize that we've outgrown each other? Luckily for me, my siblings, we had the conversation and we've kind of, grown at our own pace, but we're accepting each other where we are in our lives, and it's not as controlling as it was before. But that took a that took some time to adjust. So
Well, and it took a new environment moving away. It's it. There are people who can grow exactly where they're planted. They exist. Those people, I should do a study on those people. Like
yeah.
seriously, because
Mhm.
it is so hard. Like you said, our brains are literally hardwired against change for homeostasis. It's like a child will go back to their abusive parents, a husband or a wife will go back to their abusive husband or wife because it's what I know. It's not what I want, but it's what I know. And I feel like I got to go do what I know instead of the unknown. So many people are so afraid to take those first few steps out of the known because they don't know what's on the other side. However, what would your life be like if you had not made the change and you didn't move?
Oh my gosh. I actually shudder to think about that because I know I would be miserable. I envision if I had stayed, I would have been still, living out and a life that others had defined for me. I would be living a definition of success or life as others felt comfortable, and I would have never explored my own talents, my own strengths, my own desires. And I think I just would have been living my life out with this stifled, suffocating state of being
Tell
that
me how you really feel.
right. I'm just being honest. You said you wanted the raw and the real, right?
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and I would have not tapped into my potential, and so I think I would get to the end of my life with a lot of regret.
Oh my gosh. So instead,
Yeah.
we've broken free. You
Mhm.
move away, you move into this new city, and
Mhm.
you got your 4 kids, and you have this new job. Was it all roses?
Oh no. Oh no. I still had a lot of setbacks and challenges along the way. However, I think that the challenges that I experienced once I got to the new city were more of um building blocks. Like those were the I think life was helping me uncover the resilience. And you can't discover your resilience unless you go through things, right? You can't discover strength unless you're put in situations that test that. And I think that all of the things that I went through once I got to the new city was basically exercises that life was using to show me what I was really made of. Like, you're not this quiet, meek, mousy girl that you think you are. This is who you really are. And I'm like, wow, and so, yeah, I had challenges with setbacks and roles or, working with people that were a little difficult and that challenged my ability to work with different personalities. But all of those things really equip me with skills that I now use to teach others and coach others. And so it was all worth it. Anything that's really worth having is definitely going to be worth fighting for, or you're going to have some growing pains. And, in hindsight, I appreciate those challenges because they have made me who I am today. So
So in hindsight, you appreciate them. And have you gotten to a point where when they come up right now that you're able to go, I need to go through this. This is part of what I need to go through to get to the next level.
yeah, for sure. Journaling really helps with that because you're able to put things in perspective and, just writing it out objectively in a sense, just reporting it. And that's how I journal. I journal as if I'm reporting things. helps me to like process and realize that, oh, this wasn't that bad. I think about when I first started the role that I'm in now. It was definitely a leap because I had been doing roles in the background for the most part. I was an instructional designer for a lot of years, and so most of the time my work was behind the scenes, designing training. I'm not actually in the forefront delivering it. So then I decided, okay, I want to stretch a little bit. I want to take a role as a trainer. And but the residual of this identity of being the quiet girl, the shy girl, the mousy girl was still there. It was still lingering. But the part of me that had been uncovered, this, resilient person, this confident person, was challenging that. And I think that's the part of me that pushed to go ahead and apply for this job, and I got the job. So then I get this job, and now I have to stand in front of people to train. And I was like so terrified at first. But then it's interesting how, like, when you decide to grow, like there's this inner turmoil. Like the old you is kind of arguing with the person that's becoming. And that was happening for me. It was like, okay, you said you wanted this, but then this other side of me, like, oh my God, we don't do this. So you're like terrified. Meanwhile, my managers and the people I'm training, they don't even sense that any of this is happening, which makes it even more complex. But I remember going to our first annual conference, the first time they tapped me on the shoulder to say, hey, you're gonna be a speaker. And I was mortified because I was like, oh God, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And my manager's like, yeah, you're ready. And I went, and it was such a internal like storm. I was like, I'm nervous. I don't think I'm ready. Oh my God, I'm gonna be sick. But yet I go out on the stage, and then I'm calm, and I'm, talking. Meanwhile, all this is still happening though. And I got so much positive feedback in that, at that conference. And it was just so counterintuitive to what I had felt happen. But that's how growth happens. It's like you put yourself in situations and you don't really feel like you're ready for. And then you let the environment and those around you tell you how it came across. And so I'm leaning more into believe the people who are experiencing you, and not your self-doubt, and not yourself, your inner critic.
Gosh, that is beautiful advice. It really is, because so often we have changed. I heard it described so brilliantly. I wish I could give whoever it was the credit, but I don't remember where I heard it.
Uh-huh.
Was, do you have any? Well, you do. You moved away from all your family, so you have like nieces and nephews and things that you only see every once in a while.
Yeah.
And when
Mm-hmm.
you see them, you're like, "Whoa, look at you! Look how much you've grown! Oh my gosh!"
Yes.
And their mom is just like, "What are you talking about? They're the same as they were yesterday."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So you can't see your own growth because you're way too close to it.
Mm-hmm.
You still see yourself as that person of the past, while everyone else totally sees you as the new person.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really happy with the journey. I think that it was all necessary. The good and the bad. It was all necessary for today.
It all is. And no matter what it is you're going through, if you're going through hell, guys, keep going. Don't stop. Don't
Yes.
You can't. Well, I'll ask you, can you go back? Can you start a journey, start to climb, and then go back to who you used to be?
Oh no. I couldn't, even if I tried. It would feel so awkward, almost like putting on a shoe that's two sizes too small. Like, you can't fit this. Like, just stop.
Stop. Just stop. Okay. So now tell us about where you are now in your career and what it is that you're doing.
Okay, yeah. So now I'm in a great place. I had authored my first book in 2022. Yeah, so that was one of those things that the real me had been longing to do for a long time. But the old me was full of doubt and was like, "No, who are you to write a book? Who's going to listen to what you have to say?" and so forth and so on. But moving and getting into a new environment, I started tapping into those real desires. So I went for it and I wrote my first book. And I just talked about my career journey. All that stuff that I was telling you was kind of in the book, and my journey from being stuck in a role that didn't fit me. I was a customer service representative for several years, and I just wasn't happy, and I didn't realize the reason why I wasn't happy until years later was because the role didn't fit my strengths, my talents, and so it was triggering, a lot of what they call misalignment, burnout, and stress. And so the journey of me digging deep and starting to explore what my strengths are and what would be an ideal career path. So that one, that was my first book, and so that was my first taste of getting my thoughts out there and getting, you know, feedback from readers. And so it was a lot of positive feedback. My manager actually bought the book for my entire team. So that was pretty amazing. Yeah, that was pretty
Now
amazing.
that's the kind of support people, the people that you need to have around you. People who are going to
Absolutely.
defend you whether you're in the room or not.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And then now I'm working on my next book. It's called The Align and Thrive Method. And so now this book is really pouring out of where I am today. And just it's almost like in a continuation of the first book, but it's more of the how do you align your role with your values and your talents and your strengths, and then craft your career in a way that you can thrive sustainably, because burnout is a real thing. This is something that is considered widespread, and you can't really run across anyone who hasn't struggled with or has recently struggled with burnout. So I really wanted to write something that was more tailored to that. And how do you redesign your career in a way that you can thrive and be successful without the burnout, you know? And so that's the goal of the next book.
Wow. Okay. So burnout is a topic that I think everyone's ears perked up to. Can you give us some little cheat sheet, a little bit of what if we're in that, and I'm not, I'm so grateful I'm not, but I
Right.
spent most of my life, almost my entire life in it. So can you give us a few tips on I'm feeling like completely burned out. What do I do?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I would say is, taking that pause is essential. And that's one of the things my therapist used to tell me is the pause is going to be your very best friend. I think that oftentimes we get so wrapped up in the routine and the rat race, in a sense, that we rarely take a pause to say, am I okay? Or just to check in with yourself. And I think that when you start to feel that exhaustion, and one of the signals for me where burnout was coming on is that if I got a full night's rest, I still woke up exhausted. I
Mhm.
still felt tired. And so when you start to see that where you're not getting rest or you're not feeling rested, no matter how much sleep you get, that's where you want to take a pause and say, okay, what's going on? What's driving this? Because if it's traditional burnout, normally it's driven by workload. You're putting in too many hours, you're not taking care of yourself, like maybe your sleep hygiene is off. The diet has a huge component in the traditional burnout. However, if you find that, you're sleeping well, your workload is really not that heavy, and yet you're still experiencing those symptoms, then that's when I would say that it's probably misalignment burnout, where you've probably outgrown your role, your values have shifted, your goals are not aligned with what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then that's where you need to take an inventory of where is the alignment kind of off in your role compared to who you are today, and what changes or shifts do you think you need to make?
So I think it's difficult might not be a strong enough word. I think it's difficult for people to see that within themselves.
Yeah, it is. It
And
is.
so
Absolutely.
you are coaching people through this very thing.
Absolutely. So it was interesting. I wrote an article about misalignment burnout when I first started researching it. And an entertainment lawyer reached out to me. He said, I didn't know this was a thing. And so we had like an hour long conversation. And so I started working with him to help him with what we had, identified as misalignment burnout. Where his challenge was is he liked his field, like he liked the idea, the work of being an attorney. But where he was in his life at that point was he was more interested in the mentorship and helping up and coming attorneys and guiding them and helping them navigate pitfalls and things like that. So what we discovered was he just needed to make tiny shifts. And that's often the case in a lot of people uh roles where they may not need to make like drastic changes to their career in order to get over this misalignment burnout. It may be just minor adjustments, like in the case of the entertainment attorney. And what I recommended for him was to just to pitch his HR and to see if they could do a role redesign. And all it would really take was just to adjust his job description in a way where it did involve mentorship, because at his firm no one was really taking ownership of mentoring the new associates. And I we were joking about the TV show Suits, and I was like, yeah, you could be Louis Litt. So he was like, exactly. And so he did that, and it actually went over well. So he was all of a sudden excited again. He was like, you made this sound so simple, but I didn't even think about this. Like, who knew that I could actually renegotiate my role and my responsibilities to infuse things that made me excited again? So, yeah, so this is a prime example of the types of things that I help people with when they feel like their role is kind of draining the life out of them and they don't know where the holes are. We work together to kind of identify where that energy drain is coming from and plug that hole and find new ways to revitalize their careers.
So I think the best description I've heard on that is all of us are inside of a jar and the instructions to us is on the outside of the jar. So you need somebody on the outside to read the instructions and help you see what the reality is. It's amazing how much our left brain trying to protect us is harming us. And so
Mm,
you really need someone else to help most of the time.
yeah.
However, there are some things that everyone across the board could do just on their own. What are some of the things that people can do to help them be able to see what's really happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Journaling is my go-to, right? Keeping a job journal in a sense, tracking the things that in your role that excite you, but also tracking the things that you might feel dread over or you feel drained or depleted after you do them. Because you want to make sure that you're journaling those things so that you can identify patterns and trends. And the thing that, like you said earlier, when we can't see our own growth, this is a prime example of when that impacts you, because you could be in a role 5 or 10 years and not recognize that you've grown. And when the job was exciting to you in the beginning and now all of a sudden it's not, the key indicator is that you've grown and you're not seeing it. And this is why the job no longer fits. So having that job journal is a great way to start to track the things that are exciting to you or now not exciting to you, and be able to then be able to point to, okay, this is a thing that I would really rather do more of. How can I either renegotiate my existing role or start putting feelers out in the marketplace to see what is out there that would be more aligned with who I am today. The other thing is always networking, always building relationships with other professionals, with it, whether it's in your organization or outside of your organization, that's well within, your capabilities without an actual, coach or mentor. And then also, upskilling is always, something that you want to do on a consistent basis. And, and that doesn't have to be a lot of the hard tech skills. I think that it's more beneficial for us today to really lean more into the soft skills and the people skills and upskilling those things, because those are the things that employers and recruiters, they're finding very difficult to identify in people, especially with collaboration, personal leadership, accountability, resilience. So, proactively leaning into developing your interpersonal skills is another thing that you can do today to start moving yourself closer to greater alignment in your career.
Love it. Love it. You mentioned getting quiet earlier. What does that mean to you?
Oh yeah, so that's the pause. The pause is my best friend, I keep saying. But that's just taking maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day. And that can be in the start of your day. I like the Balance app and the Calm app. They have quick meditations that you can just sit still and just get acquainted with your thoughts and what comes up for you. And getting familiar with that and getting comfortable with that, because that's how you are able to make those intuitive decisions and be acquainted with, am I making this decision or is someone kind of projecting their own desires or plans for me on me, and making that distinction is really important. But if you're not pausing and taking that quiet time for yourself to get acquainted with your own voice, it's going to be difficult to do that. So even if it's like 5 or 10 minutes at the top of the day, and then typically in the middle of the day when you start to feel that energy dip, when we typically are reaching for snacks and sugar, that will be an ideal time to take a pause and reflect on how has my day been going, what's been working, what's not been working. The other thing is at the end of the day to reflect on what went well and what's not working, and what are you proud of, and what do you feel like is an opportunity for growth, and just having that in your job journal, like using your job journal during those pauses is a great way to stay on track of what's going on with you.
Shoo. Okay, that's a load of really good information that people can start using right away. I asked you a ton of questions. Is there something that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Oh, that's a good question, but I can't really think of anything in particular. I think we covered it all. We covered all the bases. So
Okay.
it's been
Okay.
great.
So I have two final questions that I ask everybody.
Okay.
One is book, podcast recommendations, things that help you with your mental diet that you might be willing to share with our folks.
Oh, absolutely. I love Adam Grant. His work life podcast is a huge recommendation. I tune into that pretty frequently. When it comes to mental, um, Brene Brown is a favorite of mine. Um, so all of her books, I just recommend reading all of her books and listening to her, because she really helped me with the vulnerability piece and being able to feel comfortable with being honest about where I am. I would not have been able to share those stories with you today if it had not been for her work, and so I definitely recommend her as well. Um, and I just think your journal is gonna be the third one that will be instrumental to your mental diet and improving yourself. Tapping into your own stories and writing them down and capturing them would be my third recommendation.
Beautiful. And the final question, you're on Think Your Way to an Epic Life. So what can our folks do to think their way to their own epic life?
Yeah, I think thinking in a way where I think I've said it a lot, is tapping into your own inner voice and really getting acquainted with your own desires. And I don't think we do this enough, especially as women. We tend to um delegate that to others. We want to accommodate our children, our spouses, our bosses, our friends, and I'm pretty sure men experience this as well. They want to please their partners or their children as well. So I think that thinking your way to a great life starts with you, starts with, being acquainted with your voice, your desires, your hopes, your aspirations, and then that be the foundation of what you do from there. It should always start with you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Shannon, thank you so much for spending your time and giving your wisdom to all of our folks. We really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Kara. Thanks for having me.